Welcome, everybody. I am Camille Sargi, your host of Just 2 Minutes. And today I have Bob the Builder here. Bob, you want to tell us about yourself?
Sure. I'm Bob Brierley. I own Calyx Homes and Calyx Retrofit construction company and a weatherization company. We're based in Lincoln, Rhode Island. I've been doing this for the last 40 years. We do a combination of weatherization for existing homes for RISE and the Mass State program in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. And we do residential remodeling and renovation. So houses, take it right down to the studs, add additions, kitchens, and bathrooms.
Awesome. I said Bob the Builder because you're the original Bob the Builder.
That's what I've been called that for a lot of years. When I first started, I was 27 years old. They called me the Bob the Boy Builder back then. So as the TV show came on, they've had a lot of stories. A lot of kids have been excited to meet Bob the Builder on site. So it's always been a lot of fun.
That's cool. I'm sure that gets you, like people feel safe hiring you.
They do. It's interacting with, I have 3 children. I have a granddaughter. And being able to interact with children gives them a point of confidence that you're good people, that you want to have somebody that you're going to be wearing somebody's house for as much as a year sometimes on some of these larger projects. And you want the customer to feel comfortable that they welcome us into their home.
Nice. So Bob's here today because we're going to be talking about 203K loans and how that looks like on his side. We're not lenders. We work with lenders to get this type of loan, and Bob knows the process, so he's here today to answer that. But most importantly, you're here for the Just 2 Minutes questions.
Okay.
All right. So I got my timer over here. Are you ready for action?
Go for it.
Okay. So what's the purpose of those guys that are running around with tight socks, green suits with the green hat? What's their purpose?
Where is this, please?
Yeah, those guys that are running around with those are their short little guys with the hat, the green hat.
You talking leprechauns?
Yeah. What's their purpose?
They're to show us where the pot of gold is located, so that way we can take care of our families and get richer in every part of our lives.
Okay. So if the world, we ran out of water, but scientists came up with 2 liquids that we can drink.
Mm-hmm.
Tastes like water, hydrates us. One is red and one is blue. Which one would you choose to drink for the rest of your life?
I would pick the red one.
Red one. Interesting. Okay. What's your favorite jet ski?
I don't know the name of the jet skis. I have gone in Mexico and Thailand and some other places, but I don't have a favorite one. But they are fun.
So where's the best place for you that you've...
Narragansett Bay. So you go in Narragansett Bay early in the morning before the boats are out there. You go on water skiing and get out there when it's like a sheet of glass. And you just go for miles and miles. You actually get tired before you just run out of energy because they go so fast and it's so much fun.
Okay. What's your favorite dish?
Favorite dish? There's clams and linguine. So it's a dish that my wife and I have been to Italy several times, and she would always have the margarita pizza. I have the clams and linguine, and we have that for lunch many times.
Awesome. All right, cool. What did you think?
That was cool.
All right, thanks for coming in. We'll see you next time.
Have a nice day.
So yes, we're going to talk about 203Ks. Just a little background for people who don't familiar with it. If a home needs work, the bank's not going to let you borrow money on a house that's damaged or needs work. So they have these programs out there to help purchase the home. They give you some money to be able to do work to the home. And paperwork, I heard, is very time consuming on your part. Right?
It's very similar to what we do already. So if somebody has a home and they want to purchase it, but there's been water damage, there's an old kitchen from the 1930s, bathrooms got number 2 wiring in it, and it just needs an extensive amount of work. And a lot of times folks don't have the money. They have the money to purchase it. They can afford the monthly payment. But in order to improve the house, they don't have the cash for it, so they have to pre-borrow the money, basically. So you get the money to purchase the house, and then you get additional funds in order to do the actual renovations for the project that's targeted. So when we meet with a client and they want to do work on their existing home, or sometimes when they're purchasing a home, We'll go through and we'll budget out what the cost is for the vanity and the tile floor and the kitchen cabinets and so forth. And through that process, we come up with a budget for that work.
Who finds you, knowing that you're familiar with 203K loans?
So we work with several different bankers and loan officers that refer people to us. I work with a number of realtors. I built 300 houses before I started doing remodeling. So they were remodeling extensively in 2007, just before the big downturn in 2008. The network of people I've met over the years, people refer us to a 203K loan. And prior to them purchasing it, they want to know what they're getting themselves into. And this is not just a 203K, but on any kind of project. So we'll come out and take pictures and measurements, come up with a proposal for the work, specifications, exactly what we're doing, time frame, start and finish dates, and the cost of that work. So then that work is a big part of what has to happen for the bank's purposes for the 203K loan. So we convert that into the documentation that the bank's looking for. Banks do a little bit different in that they have categories. So they'll have category cabinets, let's say $10,000 for the kitchen cabinets. That's that portion of it. And the countertops are $3,000.
So they have like a set amount of...
They have a set categories.
Okay.
So they want us to break it down by categories so that when the loan is approved, then the bank comes out, inspects the property, sees the work that we've done. So say with half the cabinets are in, and we budgeted $10,000 for the cabinets, the bank will give us half that money, $5,000 against that category. And then once the cabinets are completely finished, they'll give us the other $5,000.
Okay.
So it's kind of seamless for us because we're already doing a lot of that groundwork. And then each bank or lending officer will have his own particulars that they want in order to make that work for their program.
Okay. So let's go through the whole life cycle of this process.
Sure.
Right? I'm showing someone a home. The second floor is not done. And, it's... So if the bank sends an appraiser, the appraiser's going to be like, yeah, this is not a livable home or, whatever. It's not going to appraise at the value. But so at that point, what do? I talk to the lender. Lender sends me...
So generally, when you're looking at a house that needs work on it and the client doesn't have the cash to finish it off, usually we get the call even before you talk to the lender.
Who calls you?
Usually the realtor or the client will call us.
How do they know about you and that you're familiar with?
In the network of people I work with.
So you meet with a lot of people and you make sure they know that you do 203K.
Right. So as I'm talking with folks, we talk about the ADUs, which we talked about before, the 203Ks, that is a vehicle that we can work within. So then we'll go out and meet with the realtor and the client at the house, because sometimes people are always surprised at how much things cost nowadays. The last few years, prices have risen on materials and labor and the subcontractors. So because of that, now we have to put a price together on it. And before they get too deep into it and purchase the house and you make it subject to the contractor looking at it, you want to make sure that's within the budget. Because I always use the term of $1 million, because if something costs $1 million, project's not going to happen. It just doesn't make any sense. So $1 million for everybody is a different number. Sometimes $10,000 is $1 million. So it really depends on the client, depends on their situation. So once we have that initial budget put together, then at that point, that's when you talk that we bring the lender in for the purchase price for the house.
Just real quick before that.
Go ahead.
Let's take a step back here. So you've done a lot, 203K loans. What's the minimal work that you've done for a 203K, and what's the worst?
Sure. So originally they have, I forget the term for it, but it's like a short loan and a full loan. So the short loan used to be about $25,000 or $30,000. Now the short loans, they've raised their limit to about $60,000, so they can do $60,000 worth of work.
Plus 60,000 plus or maximum?
60,000. So there's different types of loans. Like 60,000 requires less paperwork because it's a smaller project. We've done projects at $225,000 projects too. There's more documentation. There's more of appraisal that comes into play, because when, say it was a $100,000 project, somebody's purchasing the house for $300,000, what the bank and the appraiser is looking at is that today the house is worth $300,000. So the bank will forward the money to the client to purchase the house. Then the future value of the house is to do the kitchen, bathroom, the other renovations that are required for that house. So for $100,000, the bank will then have the appraiser look at it for the $300,000 and the $100,000 in improvements. And they want to ensure, the bank wants to be sure that the house is not going to be worth $400,000 for that project once it's all done. Because that way the bank has the equity in it that they need in order to cover their loan. And the client's borrowing the $300,000 to purchase the house, and the $100,000 is part of that loan that's against the future value of the work that's to be done.
Okay. Yeah, because they want to make sure they're giving the money, and if something happens, they can sell it and make their money back.
Correct.
Banks.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So there's two categories you're saying: 25,000.
Oh, there's
or
other
less?
$60,000. So $60,000 or less now.
Oh, 60,000.
So they changed the limits on it now.
Okay. So there's two categories. Well, one
There's
is
a
like
short loan and a longer loan. So there's
Okay.
a small and a large.
So what's the smallest project you've done?
The smallest project that we've done is about $30,000 in the past.
What was the project?
It was a kitchen.
Oh, just the kitchen.
We took out the kitchen cabinets, put new kitchen cabinets in, left the existing flooring. Customer purchased new appliances that we installed for them, new countertops, tile backsplash.
Wow.
It was sinking faucet, right?
So that's a small project.
It's a small project.
Does it get smaller? Like, oh, the floors, just install flooring.
So generally on the 203Ks, I haven't done any small projects like that because a lot of people know if it's something $10,000 or $15,000, they can do that out of pocket. So it's usually where is that extensive renovation that needs to be done. Folks just don't have, they have the money for the down payment, but they don't have the money to do the renovations to bring it to where they need to be livable for them.
Beautiful. Okay. So that's the smallest. What's the biggest?
Biggest one was about $235,000.
Rebuild the whole house?
In that case, we did a kitchen, we did 2 bathrooms, and that one we did install hardwood floors and sanded all the hardwood floors on that.
Okay, wait. Assuming this house was okay,
it was
but they wanted to bump it up and make it nicer.
I call it tired. You have a house. Yeah. We do a lot of work on the east side of Providence, and they'll have folks in there that have been there since the 1950s, and they haven't touched the house because they were happy with it because it's where they got married, it's where they raised their children, but they haven't touched it at all. So when it comes time when they go into a nursing home or pass, then the house has to get sold, but it's an extensive renovation needs to be done. Every neighborhood has those people the folks have been there for a long time. Across the street from my house, there was a lady who lived there for 30 years and she was a hoarder, let the house go, and now somebody bought it and they're doing a flip on it and they're doing quite a bit of work on it to bring it up to current standards.
Wow. So in your opinion, is it better to buy a small, like a home that needs work and you could do a 2 or 3K loan, or a brand new build home?
There's not a lot of new homes to be purchased. So it's one of those, it's always been a problem nationwide in order to get buildable lots. And the cost of land is so much that typically lots in Rhode Island are $150,000 to $250,000 for the land before you put the house in there, before you put the sewer and water and gas in there. So it gets very expensive very quickly. That's why the condominiums, because you get the volume of building condos, people will purchase condos. We have an older housing stock, which is good for me as a businessman, as a remodeler, because these houses, we work on houses that were built in the 1700s all the way up to, we did finish a basement project of a house that was built last year and did an extensive basement project for that. Because of the age of the housing stock, a bathroom and a kitchen usually lasts 25 to 30 years. So every 25 to 30 years, it's getting recycled. So if a house hasn't been touched for 60 years, you can imagine it's the original cabinets were built back in the day.
If you were to choose a home,
if I was to choose a home, I like the older houses.
Older house, and then update everything.
Everything. Yep.
Nice.
We did a whole house renovation and off of Wickenden Street. It was a 2-family. We stripped it back to the studs and made it into a single-family home.
Wow.
A whole house renovation.
Wow.
All new windows, 45 new windows, new doors. And we kept the new back doors, but the new front doors with the old double wood doors, gorgeous, painted them red, really sharp, really nice looking house.
It's a nice spot.
But going back to that, buying an existing house, you have the old moldings, you have a lot of that's the good part of it. You have these old staircases, the old railings that are gorgeous that can be brought up. But then you have a kitchen that was site built back in the 30s. It has no drawers in it. No, it's just not modern. So that's where we come into play.
Wow. Okay. So these people coming in to buy a house, it needs renovation. So they go through the lender and get approved for this type of loan. Mm-hmm. Now we know the work that needs to be done, like, kitchen, let's say, and the flooring. What's so you give a quote?
So what happens is usually somebody will be looking at purchasing a house, realize that the house needs more work than they can afford to pay out of pocket. So then the 203K comes into play. They know they have the money to be able to afford the full amount of the loan, for the original purchase price plus the work for the 203K loan. Once that loan closes, when you do a 203K loan, you have to work with a registered contractor because they don't want to have that kind of work being done by a homeowner where they're trying to do stuff on the nights and weekends. So they require that it be a registered contractor with insurances and licenses and workers' comp and all the things you have to have.
And someone who knows how to do the paperwork.
And somebody has a clue, yes.
Yeah.
Somebody has a clue. Our package is part of the loan package because the bank wants to know they have a good contractor to work with. So when the client closes on the loan, then we...
Do they get you a quote as far as the work that needs to be done, the kitchen, the flooring?
Right.
Do they get that?
The bank already has all that information.
Do they get like a couple of... They don't even need you to go in?
By the time it closes on the 203K loan, the bank wants to know that they have a contract, which in our case where... because there's a lot of work that goes into it, because of the recommendation, we usually get those jobs. And so we're the contractor of record with the bank. So that when the client purchases the house, we pull the appropriate permits and we start doing the renovations, start doing the demolition and the work on the house. With
the bank, you mean you have to be registered with the bank that you're...
Well, you have to be a registered contractor, but the bank wants to make sure that they have somebody who is qualified to do the work.
Okay.
So the bank wants to know when they loan this money to a client, the contract is already set up. They don't want to do it after the fact. So as loans closing, they've already identified the contractor. We're already the contractor of record with the bank, and that they already know that when the time comes, we have the inspectors. The bank comes out and does an inspection as the work is being done. There's a schedule of values for that loan. So if the cabinets are $10,000 and the plumbing's $10,000, then as that work is being done, if it's 50% done, 75% done, then they disperse the money to us as that work is being done.
Okay. So are you saying like the bank comes in to look at the home and says, okay, that's going to be $28,000, that's going to be $10,000, so you need to borrow this much?
So we've already established the total value. So say
Who's we?
So we being the contractor, we being Calyx.
Before they close on the home?
Before they close on the loan, before they even apply for the loan, because when we first look at the house and say there's $100,000 worth of renovations to be done, the client wants to be able to apply to the bank for the amount of money in order to do the renovations that are necessary.
Yeah.
The total loan for the purchase price and the 203K totaled up wants to make sure that the client can, one, be able to afford the payment on that. Two, that the bank will then have an appraisal done for that to make sure that the value, completed value with the purchase price and the improvements is going to be up to snuff so that the bank is protected for their interest. So once that part's done, then we start to do the renovations.
Okay. So obviously you start doing construction when they closed on the loan and
close on the house, right?
Yeah. How long does it usually, or can it take once they close for them to actually move in?
So depending on the situation, we've had people where, say we're doing the bathroom on the second floor. And there's a bathroom on the first floor and the kitchen. We've just like any other remodeling project, it gets moved in and they live in the areas of the house where we're not working.
Okay.
In other cases, if it's more extensive renovation, then which is part of what the bank's looking at is they're still renting someplace for a period of time. Yeah. We've had projects that take a month. We have projects that take a year. So depending on how extensive the project is, we make the arrangements with the client as far as what their living arrangements are going to be.
Okay. So let's say they close on a house that needs a kitchen. Who dictates if they can live there? Is it...
It's by agreement with the client. The banks are really not involved in that point.
Okay. So they can use a sink in the bathroom as a kit, to wash dishes.
Right. Just like in any other renovation, like we're doing a kitchen for somebody, we'll move the appliances into the adjacent dining room.
Okay.
They'll barbecue, they'll get pizza, they'll get Chinese food. They'll make alternative eating arrangements. While the kitchen's being done, once that's all done, we do a final cleanup. We have a cleaning company come in and clean all the affected areas and the back of the house again.
I have to say, this program is amazing because I'm all for getting, updating all the homes in the area. Like you're saying, if someone hasn't lived in the home for a while,
sure,
it starts falling apart. So I'm all for getting people in there, updating it, and all these homes everywhere are going to be better than sitting there.
Oh, it is. And then your office here is beautiful. And this used to be a single-family home. You've done a lot of work to bring it up to where it needs to be. But this is kind of a typical kind of thing. I'm not sure what the stage of what this looked like before this. But at the end of the day, people were just amazed at before and after pictures about what it used to be and then what it is today is always amazing. That's a part of the thrill of doing what I do, is be able to use your imagination and to be able to draw out of the client what they're trying to accomplish, and that the project, when it's all done, is like, we did this. So we take a lot of pride in what we do for our clients.
I don't know. I don't remember if you answered it, but how long would a construction take? Like, what's the longest that
We've had projects take 1.5 years.
Oh my gosh! So where
whole house renovation. So the house off of Wickenden Street, we did a whole house renovation for. They moved from New Jersey. They rented a house in Edgewood and Cranston. The first 8 months, they were still living in New Jersey. Sold that house, and they rented a house in Edgewood until the project we were working on was completed.
Amazing.
So every situation is different.
Okay. So you don't have to worry about, like, how's it going? Are you guys done? Do you get that a lot?
And it always seems like it goes too long.
Yeah.
Even when it goes fast, it's too long. Because there's a lot that goes into these projects. It even gets on the inspections alone. We were talking about this with a client that we're doing. We're moving a laundry room. This house in East Greenwich. We're creating a bathroom. We're enlarging an ensuite bathroom and moving a laundry room to another part of the house. That project is going to be about 4 months to do that project, to do 2 bathrooms and a laundry. About 3 weeks of that's for the inspections. You have to do the inspections properly. One, I can lose my registration. 2, you want to make sure that everything's done properly. And if it's done, you don't do the inspections, you don't pull permits on projects. If there's a problem and they say there's an electrical fire, the insurance company can deny you for the insurance because you haven't properly done all the inspections on it. So it's really important on a lot of levels.
Okay. How you get paid? You mentioned there's 50% done, 75% done. Mm-hmm. Who dictates what? When do you get paid?
So once the loan is closed with the bank for the 203K, using the $100,000 example, the banks will, and the 203K, which is advantageous to Calyx, is usually there's a down payment. So somebody will give us a down payment, 10%, 15% of the project. In the 203 case, we have to start doing our work. So we have to front money. We have to start doing our work beforehand, pay for the permits and everything. And then the bank appraiser comes in. So the bank appraises, usually the appraiser that's done the original appraisal on the house and the renovations to be done on that. And then they come back and look at it and say, of the $100,000 worth of work, the inspections are anywhere from 3 to 5 payments that go onto a 203K.
So they break it up by project?
No, by category.
Like kitchen.
Right. So they have cabinets, plumbing, electrical work, plastering, insulation, windows, doors. So they have multiple categories. Okay. So if you look around, there's finished carpentry, there's wood flooring in here, there's light fixtures, there's smoke alarms.
Kind of like the same, because I'm a registered contractor too. Kind of like the same way when you have the studs up, the town inspector to come in.
Right.
Okay, you're good. So that's how you get paid? Like
kind of the same thing. So when a typical contract, we do milestone payments. So it's a deposit, start of construction, demolitions completed, tile works completed, installations done, plastering's done. So milestones are when you can visually, as a homeowner, you can see the work's been done. So for the bank, they break it down even more extensively because they'll give a portion of each category. So the rough plumbing is half done. The rough plumbing is everything behind the walls you can't see. And that's where most of the work is. They are putting in a sink and a faucet is a minor part of it, but say 3/4 of that work is on the rough plumbing work. So they'll give us 3/4 of that money from that category. And that's the money then gets dispersed by the bank, typically so they wire the money to the Calyx account. Some loans, the way they do double checks where the check's given to the client, so the check's made out to the client and to the contractor. So the client signs off to Calyx, and then we deposit the check.
Oh, it's not made out to them. Like they have to sign it.
So the check is a double check. So it's made out to Camille and to Calyx at the same time. So that way, some banks will do it that way. There's an element of control. That way, the customer is satisfied with the work that's being done. So they send off the check to us, and we deposit it into our account.
Wow. Okay. So how many eyes are watching you, making sure you're doing? You got the bank.
We got the bank. We have the homeowner. There's a plumbing inspector, a building inspector, a mechanical inspector, electrical inspector, the fire department. And
then you have the bank inspector.
The bank appraiser comes out and inspects that too. So there's a lot of eyes on us. Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about, because you mentioned when you do a project, you get some money up front to start doing the work. These types of loans and these types of projects, you're not getting paid till the work is done. So is that why a lot of contractors don't do it because
Yeah, not everybody has the wherewithal to be able to float that money.
yeah, I can
So
see because you're like you have to front.
you got to front
A
the money,
lot.
right. So there's a motivation for us because in order for us to get that first payment, we're going to do a lot of work. If you kind of dilly-dally on a job, it's taking a long time to get it done, then you don't get paid for it. And so you want to be able to make sure you hit that next stage in order to be able to get a substantial payment from the bank.
Okay. So the bank appraiser / inspector, because the appraiser is kind of like the
It is
inspector, right?
Yep.
Do they have some knowledge about building?
They do.
They do. Okay.
They do.
All right. So they come out and they make sure everything is good. Is there arguing sometimes?
They come out to make sure that everything is good because they're not
to pay you.
They're not quality control. Quality control is us as the contractor,
And the city.
and the city is making sure it meets the code. So the inspectors generally don't care if the tile floor is square and level. It's not really their issue. Their issue is to make sure the work has been done.
Been done. Okay. And then they give the okay to the bank to pay you.
Correct.
Once it's done, there's a stamp of approval,
Yes.
right? What's that?
So at the end of the project, the city comes out and does the certificate of conformance inspections, where they make sure the toilets are working, the sinks, the water's running, that everything's been done properly, that it meets the code. Once that's all done, the banks, the towns will either give a certificate of conformance, certificate of completion, or a certificate of occupancy, depending on how big the project is and what type of project it is.
Okay, great. I'm curious, like, when does the homeowner start paying the mortgage? I don't know if you know that, or I have to ask a...
Sure. So the way I understand it is that, using that example, the $300,000 and $100,000, they're paying it's negotiable. Because
what about the year and a half project?
So it's negotiable. So when you have people, they'll borrow the $300,000, $100,000, and then within that structure, they'll have enough payments for the period of time for the construction, 6 months or a year. So that money's coming off of a draw fund, where the money's put in escrow, and those monthly payments are being made out of that money. So that's one way I've seen it done. Another way that is done is that you start paying immediately on the $300,000, and then as the money is drawn down for the $100,000, then your payments increasing.
Oh.
Then I've seen the other one where you're taking the money out of escrow and paying the monthly payments for that. And at the end of the term, when the project's all done, and it's usually a time frame that's negotiated with the bank and the contractor and the homeowner, say it's a 6-month project. At the end of 6 months, then all that money is melded together, and the payments are a final payment based on the $400,000.
Wow, pretty cool. Nice. Anything that I missed or didn't mention or talk about in this the whole process?
That mostly covers everything. The thing to be careful of is to make sure that you, when you're working with a client and they're thinking about doing something like this, is that you put a clause in there that subject to. Because say, using the $1 million example, somebody comes in here and it's $1 million, and it's way more than they can afford to do on the project. But if they've already gone down that road, already signed an agreement without having that clause in there, then they can be stuck purchasing that house. So you want to make sure that the client's protected and that the contractor gets on board early on. Like typically for us, we had a couple of calls from new clients today. I'm seeing one of them on Thursday, and the other one can't meet until next Thursday. But within a week after that, we'll have the estimate put together. So within 2 weeks, somebody can get the answer on that. We've had customers call up on a Friday, and they're coming from out of town, and we meet them the next day on Saturday, and we get back to them next Monday or Tuesday, because sometimes people have a tight time frame. So we try to meet the needs for our clients.
Okay. What exactly is stipulation? What should people watch out from? Like what should they put exactly in the...
Subject to contractor's approval. It's as simple as that.
Oh, contractor's approval.
Right.
Okay. Because you might come in and say, this is not going to be $40,000.
Correct.
This is going to be... because
$80,000.
If you look behind the wall, there's
stuff going on. So it's just like a lot of times people put home inspectors in, subject to home inspection. If it's something where home inspector comes in and looks at the mechanicals and gets an overall idea of what needs to be fixed. But as a 203K contractor, if we're going in there and looking at the work that needs to be done on the house, and like using your example, they think it's going to cost 40, but it really costs 80 because of the site conditions, then they still have the opportunity to back out of the deal.
Okay.
And that way they're protected.
Cool. Good to know. Yeah. I'll make sure my people and make sure you guys know.
For
and
sure.
remember to do that. Nice. What's the coolest thing you found in the wall? Like, speaking of opening up walls.
The coolest thing we found, I got a frame in my basement. We found a newspaper from the 1940s where we was talking about, I'm a big Boston Bruins fan. And we found a newspaper that was behind the walls, and it talked about how during practice that one of the Boston Bruins skaters got slashed with a skate across the side of his face.
Wow.
And had to get 20 stitches. So it was a pretty cool article.
Yeah. What about bodies you found?
No bodies. We found dead mice. We found dead critters behind walls.
What's the biggest animal you found?
Rats.
Rats.
Found some rats. Yeah.
Scary. Those are scary.
Oh, yeah.
You see a cute mouse, you're like, oh.
Oh, yeah.
A rat.
Those nasty tails.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
It looks like a human skin. That's what makes it scary, I think.
It
the
does.
tail.
Jeez.
So, Bob, you're actually, I'm going to show this. So, January edition of Rhode Island Monthly, you're in here on a project that you worked on.
Yeah, we didn't even know what was going in. So we did work for Dr. Brown and his wife, Mara Brown. They work around Island Hospital. And it was a cool project. It was referred to us by an architect, Dave Sisson. And what they wanted to do is they took the roof off a garage and put a second floor with a gorgeous family room in there. And on that same floor, it's got a greenhouse that is fully automated. If it gets too hot in there, automatically opens the windows to let the heat out. It has a gardening sink in there, tile floor, and there's a deck off of that with mahogany decking. It has cable rails, the steel cable rails on it. And on the third floor, there's a sitting area and a staging area so that they can go inside the dome, and there's an observatory to watch the stars.
Wow.
So really,
that's
really
amazing.
cool project.
Yeah, that's really cool.
There's a COVID story for us, is that I actually got our email yesterday. The observatory was $25,000. We bought it through a company in California. It was being manufactured in Minnesota. And it was during COVID, and it kept getting delayed, and come to find out, the company in California went out of business. So I found the company in Minnesota. It wasn't a client's problem, but I had to come out of pocket for another $25,000 and purchase the observatory for a second time. And I worked directly with the manufacturer that time. They actually shipped it by common carrier from Minnesota to a common carrier in Lincoln, Rhode Island, but it got trashed. So they had to rebuild it completely. So it took another 3 months to get it. So
those things are huge.
this one's it's about 8 feet across, 8 foot. The big half round 8 foot. But you can push it with a finger, and it rolls around. You can hit the different angles of the stars and all. So there's a lot of stories in construction.
Yeah,
there's a lot of things that are beyond your control, and you try to manage the chaos sometimes.
Yeah, I can see you take a lot of joy in what you do.
It's a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's good when you find something that you love. And
yeah, we do. Yeah, I've got some great people working for me. We've got 22 people in the company, and between the weatherization side and the construction side, 2 project managers, 2 inside coordinators, an estimator, bookkeeper, facilities manager. So we have carpenters and painters and weatherization workers. So we have a lot of good people working for me. So I take a lot of pride in being able to provide for their families.
Awesome. So, Bob, how do people find you?
They can find us on calyxbuilds.com, CALYXBUILDS.com. Our office number is 334-9110. It's area code 401. And you can reach us at inquire, INQUIRE, at calyxbuilds.com. Jenna is the gatekeeper. She's the one that answers the phone and gets the pre-qualifying done, finds out what somebody wants to do, and then she sets an appointment for me to go up and meet a client and discuss what they'd like to do.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, thank you very much, Bob, for stopping by. And
thank you.
Stop by another time.
Appreciate having you. Thank you. Thank you.
My agent's got a squad. We all in the zone. In-house help, so they ain't doing it alone. They focus on clients, negotiating win, while the back end's hand 'em, man, that's how we spin. I hand 'em business, watch 'em all climb.